to chapter 32 of Moby Dick. Presumably on HermitCraft 10. Once I open up Microsoft.com/link. Apparently I've been logged out of Minecraft. Thanks, Minecraft. Thanks, Microsoft. Now I gotta enter... Wait, why is Microsoft.com/link not working? That's not helpful. Okay, enter code displayed. Oh, probably should not say this out loud. Yeah. Let's just assume there's some numbers in here and some letters. Okay, is this the Microsoft account I need for multi-MC? I guess we'll find out. Because, okay, yeah, it looks like it's working. Okay, so we might have a stream tonight. Sorry for the delay, folks. Microsoft apparently required a new sign-in, and that slows everything else down. We have a plan. We have a plan for tonight. It's gonna be fine. We just all need to be everybody cool out, in the immortal words of Ryan Hartman. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we have this stream set up properly. Live reactions off. Slow mode set to 10 seconds. Save. There's issues with authentication servers right now. Yeah, I've just found one. Ah! Hey, Broken Lightbulb Studio says, I just got that Ducks book you recommended and started reading it. It's really good so far. Thanks. Hey, I'm really glad. Yeah, Kate Beaton is a fantastic writer and illustrator. A cartoonist, if you will. Okay. So, who's ready for the most challenging chapter of Moby Dick? Okay, so let's open Project Gutenberg. Project Gutenberg, Project Gutenberg. Had many sons, had many sons. Even in Jiv. Am I somewhere safe? Ish. Okay. Okay, so for some reason this is super zoomed out over here. We're going to jump to chapter 32. I need to post a few links before we get going. First off, what we're reading. Moby Dick, chapter 32. And we're going to pin that. If somebody would like to tip, just so you know, you have the option. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. We normally don't interrupt chapters to thank people for tips, unless the chapter is exceptionally long. This is one of the exceptionally longest and exceptionally weirdest chapters. So we will probably have a few breaks in the middle, but I'd rather try and get some tips out of the way first. I mean, like, yes, they're in my way. Oh no, I've got to get a shovel. I was gonna say, where is the shovel? From a prop standpoint, the garage is great once everything's organized, but I don't think I can reach the shovel. Where is... I see the shovel's handle. It is as far away as is possible in this room, by which I mean not even like... It's as far away as the crow flies. It's as far away as, like, trying to route scrabbling over the stuff. So we're not going to do that. Welcome, Bloodmaster. Glad you could join us. Okay. I need to pin Moby Dick chapter 32 to the Discord as well. Okay. Moby Dick, or the whale. Okay, we're going to do a quick test of the foot pedal. Foot pedal is working. Okay. What do we need in terms of getting ready to rock? So while we're actually reading, I try and do tasks that are as simple and straightforward as possible so that I don't lose my place. in some ways, maybe we want to just do berry harvesting for this. I mean, because I don't have a lot of... Oh, I do have some places... A lot of the stuff with the roads, I need to kind of measure out is the problem. And I don't want to be measuring stuff. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, we actually made some pretty good progress on this tunnel, I say. Exploding inside the tunnel. Actually made some pretty good progress on this tunnel. Welcome, Casey Squared. Made some good progress on this tunnel yesterday. And we don't want to put too much energy into the underground bits here. That's not really the focus of this project. But I do want to get some stuff cleared out. Just so we can fly through here safely. Oh, yeah, we never actually properly lit this bit either, but... Okay. Maybe we grab... Trying to think of, like, the most helpful things I could work on that require the least amount of brain power. And... there might be some stuff over here. But we need to not die in the process. So... okay, let's head this way first. Howdy, Neon Wyvern. Glad you could join us. Okay, we're gonna get our trident out here, and away we go. Neon Wyvern, welcome to the stream, Wyvern. Okay. So I think... since we have a huge food problem right now, part of me thinks we should just stay here while we try and get through the first segment of cytology and then harvest a bunch of other stuff. But I've already got all of these rocks in my inventory. So maybe we should go empty those into... okay. So other options for stuff to do while reading is rip out this, which we've been doing a lot of that. But I also kind of want to make progress on this road over here, which I'm not going to be able to do, like, active development on right now, per se. I could be filling in some of this, actually. That might actually have a value, is filling in all these holes. But then we also need to come over here and... start just putting in stuff along here. You know what? Oh, we totally lost the plot with this, though. That's what happened here. Okay. I did not start the Tough and Calcite shop yet. I hope nobody creates any sort of police system to penalize people who don't have their permit shops created, because that would be bad. Okay. Okay. Looking at this, looking at the tasks before me and this chapter of the book, in my professional opinion, our best task that we could focus on right now is going to be filling in these things. So we're going to take down this. We don't need that right now, and we don't need this right here. Swap that over. Okay. I think we are about ready to read. Let's do a quick refresh on tips. Okay, no tips. That's fine. I think we're ready to rock and go then. Alrighty. Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville. Chapter 32. Cytology. Already we had boldly launched upon the deep, but soon we shall be lost in its unshored, harborless immensities. Ere that comes to pass, ere the Pequod's weedy hull rolls side by side with the barnacled hulls of the Leviathan. At the outset, it is but well to attend to a matter almost indispensable to a thorough, appreciative understanding of the more special Leviathanic revelations and allusions of all sorts, which are to follow. It is some systematized exhibition of the whale in his broad genera that I would now fain put before you. Yet, it is no easy task. The classification of the constituents of a chaos, nothing less, is here essayed. Listen to what the best and latest authorities have laid down. No branch of zoology is so much involved as that which is entitled cetology, says Captain Scoresby, Anno Domini 1820.
It's not my intention, were it in my power, to enter into the inquiry as to the true method of dividing the cetacea into groups and families. Utter confusion exists among the historians of this animal, sperm whale,
says Surgeon Beale, Anno Domini 1839.
Unfitness to pursue our research in the unfathomable waters, impenetrable veil covering our knowledge of the cetacea, a field strewn with thorns, all these incomplete indications but serve to torture us naturalists.
Thus speak of the whale, the great Cuvier and John Hunter, and lessen those lights of zoology and anatomy. Nevertheless, though of real knowledge there be but little, yet of books there are a plenty. And so, in some small degree, with cetology, or the science of whales, many are the men, small and great, old and new, landsmen and seamen, who have at large or in little written of the whale. Run over a few. The authors of the Bible, Aristotle, Pliny, Aldrovandi, Sir Thomas Browne, Gesner, Ray, Linnaeus, Rondeletius, Willoughby, Green, Artadi, Sebald, Brisson, Martin, Lachapelle, Bonaterre, Desmarest, Baron Cuvier, Frederick Cuvier, John Hunter, Owen, Scoresby, Beale, Bennett, J. Ross Brown, the author of Miriam Coffin, Olmsted, and the Reverend T. Cheever. But to what ultimate generalizing purpose all of these have written, the above cited extracts will show. Of the names in this list of whale authors, only those following Owen ever saw living whales, and but one of them was a real professional harpooner and whaleman. I mean, Captain Scoresby. On the separate subject of the Greenland or right whale, he is the best existing authority. But Scoresby knew nothing and said nothing of the great sperm whale, compared with which the Greenland whale is almost unworthy mentioning. And here be it said that the Greenland whale is an usurper upon the throne of the seas. He is not even by any means the largest of the whales. Yet, owing to the long priority of his claims and the profound ignorance which, till some 70 years back, invested the then fabulous or utterly unknown sperm whale, and which ignorance to this present day still reigns in all but some few scientific retreats and whale ports. This usurpation has been in every way complete. Reference to nearly all the leviathanic allusions in the great poet of past days will satisfy you that the Greenland whale, without one rival, was to them the monarch of the seas. But the time has at last come for a new proclamation. This is Charing Cross. Hear ye, good people all. The Greenland whale is deposed. The great sperm whale now reigneth. There are only 2 books in being which at all pretend to put the living sperm whale before you, and at the same time, in the remotest degree, succeed in the attempt. Those books are Beale's and Bennett's, both in their time surgeons to English South Sea whale ships, and both exact and reliable men. The original matter touching the sperm whale to be found in their volumes is necessarily small, but so far as it goes, it is of excellent quality, though mostly confined to scientific description. As yet, however, the sperm whale, scientific or poetic, lives not complete in any literature. Far above all other hunted whales, his is an unwritten life. Now, the various species of whales need some sort of comprehensive classification, if only as an easy outline one for the present, hereafter to be filled in by all the departments by subsequent laborers. As no better man advances to take this matter in hand, I hereupon offer my own endeavors. I promise nothing complete, because any human thing supposed to be complete must, for that very reason, infallibly be faulty. I shall not pretend to a minute anatomical description of the various species, or, in this place at least, to much of any description. My object here is simply to project the draft of a systematization of cetology. I am the architect, not the builder. But it is a ponderous task. No ordinary letter sorter in the post office is equal to it. To grope down into the bottom of the sea after them, to have one's hands among the unspeakable foundations, ribs, and very pelvis of the world, this is a fearful thing. What am I that I should essay to hook the nose of this Leviathan? The awful tauntings in Job might well appall me. Will he, the Leviathan, make a covenant with thee? Behold, the hope of him is vain. But I have swam through libraries and sailed through oceans. I have had to do with whales with these visible hands. I am in earnest, and I will try. There are some preliminaries to settle. First, the uncertain, unsettled condition of this science of cetology is in the very vestibule attested by the fact that in some quarters it still remains a moot point whether a whale be a fish. In his System of Nature, Anno Domini 1776, Linnaeus declares, "I hereby separate the whales from the fish." But of my own knowledge, I know that down to the year 1850, sharks and shad, alewives and herring, against Linnaeus' expressed edict, were still found dividing the possession of the same seas. with the Leviathan. The grounds upon which Linnaeus would fain have banished the whales from the waters, he states as follows. On account of their warm bilocular heart, their lungs, their movable eyelids, their hollow ears, penem intrantum femimam mammis lactentum, and finally, ex lege naturae jure meritoci. I submitted all this to my friends Simeon Macy and Charlie Coffin of Nantucket, both messmates of mine in a certain voyage, and they united in the opinion that the reasons set forth were altogether insufficient. Charlie profanely hinted that they were humbug. Be it known that, waiving all argument, I take the good old-fashioned ground that the whale is a fish, and call upon Holy Jonah to back me. This fundamental thing settled. The next point is, in what internal respect does the whale differ from other fish? Above, Linnaeus is giving you those items, but in brief, they are these: lungs, warm blood, whereas all other fish are lungless and cold-blooded. Next, how shall we define the whale? By his obvious externals? Oh no. I have accidentally zoomed out and lost my place in the document. This is a problem. Yeah. Well, just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. I will try to figure out where my place was here. And we will resume momentarily. Also, somehow the HVAC turned on, which I was pretty sure that I manually disabled. So that way it wouldn't turn on. I need to go and check. The thermostat is in a completely different room, and I can't play music because it'll get the copyright strike. So we're just gonna go deal with this HVAC problem real quick too. Hopefully it's not like too loud right now. Was it bothering you guys? Could you hear it while I was talking? I'm gonna go mute and deal with it. Well, I am back, and I have turned off the HVAC. It's still going. It takes like 30 seconds to a minute to respond to the command. But yeah, it came on in the middle of like a paragraph. Oh, maybe 5-10 minutes ago, and I was like, maybe it'll turn back off right away. Apparently I had pressed the wrong button when I was trying to manually disable it. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay, so now it just shut off. Okay. Great. We're gonna do this. This is, in some ways, the most challenging chapter in the whole novel, but we're gonna get through it. Gotta get hype. Okay. So let me figure out where I lost my spot. Charlie profanely hinted that they were humbug. Yeah, because I guess what happened was I was leaning on the foot pedal which sprints when I alt-tabbed out and tried to scroll in the document. Control to sprint and scroll, like, massively zoomed the document in a bad way. Okay. So here we go. Next, how shall we define the whale? By his obvious externals, so as conspicuously to label him for all time to come? To be short, then, a whale is a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. There you have him. However contracted, that definition is the result of expanded meditation. A walrus spouts much like a whale, but the walrus is not a fish because he is amphibious. But the last term of the definition is still more cogent as coupled with the first. Almost anyone must have noticed that the fish familiar to landsmen have not a flat but a vertical tail or up and down tail, whereas among spouting fish, the tail, though it may be similarly shaped, invariably assumes a horizontal position. By the above definition of what a whale is, I do by no means exclude from the Leviathanic brotherhood any sea creature hitherto identified with the whale by the best informed Nantucketeers. Nor, on the other hand, link it with any fish hitherto authoritatively regarded as alien. I am aware that down to the present time, the fish-styled lammatins and dugongs, pigfish and sowfish of the Coffin and Nantucket, are included by many naturalists among the whales. But as these pigfish are a noisy, contemptible set, mostly lurking in the mouths of rivers and feeding on wet hay, and especially as they do not spout, I deny their credentials as whales and have presented them with their passports to quit the kingdom of cetology. Hence, all the smaller spouting and horizontal-tailed fish must be included in this ground plan of cetology. Now, then, come the grand divisions of the entire whale host. First, according to magnitude, pop, I divide the whales into 3 primary books, subdivisible into chapters, and these shall comprehend them all, both small and large. 1, the folio whale. 2, the octavo whale. 3, the duodecimo whale. As the type of folio 1, I present the sperm whale, of the octavo, the grampus, of the duodecimo, the porpoise. Folios. Among these, I here include the following chapters. 1, the sperm whale. 2, the right whale. 3, the finback whale. 4, the humpback whale. 5, the razorback whale. And 6, the sulfur bottom whale. Book 1, folio, chapter 1, sperm whale. This whale, among the English of old, vaguely known as the trumpa whale, and the physeter whale, and the anvil-headed whale, is the present cachalot of the French, and potsfish of the Germans, and the macrocephalus of the Longwords. He is, without a doubt, the largest inhabitant of the globe, the most formidable of all whales to encounter, the most majestic in any aspect, and lastly, by far, the most valuable in commerce, he being the only creature from which that valuable substance, spermaceti, is obtained. All his peculiarities will, in many other places, be enlarged upon. It is chiefly with his name that I now have to do. Physiologically considered, it is absurd. Some centuries ago, when the sperm whale was almost wholly unknown in his own proper individuality, when his oil was only accidentally obtained from the stranded fish, in those days, spermaceti, it would seem, was popularly supposed to be derived from a creature identical with one then known in England as the Greenland or right whale. It was the idea also that this same spermaceti was that quickening humor of the Greenland whale, which the first syllable of the word quite literally expresses. In those times, spermaceti was exceedingly scarce, not being used for light, but only as a ointment or medicament. It was only to be had from the druggists as you nowadays buy an ounce of rhubarb. When, as I opine, in the course of time, the true nature of spermaceti became known, its original name was still retained by the dealers, no doubt to enhance its value by a notion so strangely significant of its scarcity. And so, the appellation must at last have come to be bestowed upon the whale from which this spermaceti was really derived. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 2, Right Whale. In one respect, this is the most venerable of the leviathans, being one of the first regularly hunted by man. It yields the article commonly known as whalebone or baleen, and the oil specially known as whale oil, an inferior article in commerce. Among the fishermen, he is indiscriminately designated by all the following titles: the whale, the Greenland whale, the black whale, the great whale, the true whale, the right whale. There is a deal of obscurity concerning the identity of the species, thus multitudinously baptized. What then is the whale? Which I include in the second species of my folios. It is the great Mysticetus of the English naturalists, the Greenland whale of the English whalemen, the baleen or rennet of the French whalemen, the Groenland whalefish of the Swedes. It is the whale which for more than 2 centuries past has been hunted by the Dutch and the English in the Arctic seas. It is the whale which the American fishermen have long pursued in the Indian Ocean, on the Brazil banks, on the Northwest coast, and various other parts of the world, designated by them right whale cruising grounds. Some pretend to see a difference between the Greenland whale of the English and the right whale of the Americans, but they precisely agree in all their grand features. Nor has there yet been presented a single determinable fact upon which to ground a radical distinction. It is by endless subdivisions based upon the most inconclusive differences that some departments of natural history become so repellingly intricate. The right whale will elsewhere be treated at some length with reference to elucidating the sperm whale. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 3, Finback. Under this head I reckon a monster which, by the various names of finback, tall spout, and long john, has been seen in almost every sea, and is commonly the whale whose distant jet is so often described by passengers crossing the Atlantic in New York packet tracks. In the length he attains, and in his baleen, the finback resembles the right whale, but is of a less portly girth, and a lighter color, approaching to olive. His great lips present a cable-like aspect, formed by the intertwisting slanting folds of large wrinkles. His grand distinguishing feature, the fin from which he derives his name, is often a conspicuous object. This fin is some 3 or 4 feet long, growing vertically from the hinder part of his back, of an angular shape, and with a very sharp pointed end. even if not the slightest other part of the creature be visible. This isolated fin will, at times, be seen plainly projecting from the surface. When the sea is moderately calm and is slightly marked with spherical ripples, and this gnomon-like fin stands up and casts shadows upon the wrinkled surface, it may well be supposed that the watery circle surrounding it somewhat resembles a dial, with its style and wavy hour lines graved on it. On that Ahaz dial, the shadow often goes back. The fin back is not gregarious. He seems a whale hater, as some men are man haters. Very shy, always going solitary. Unexpectedly rise into the surface in the remotest and most sullen waters. His straight and single lofty jet rise in like a tall misanthropic spear upon a barren plain, gifted with such wondrous power and velocity in swimming as to defy all present pursuit by men. This Leviathan seems to be the banished and unconquerable Cain of his race, bearing for his mark that style upon his back. From having the baleen in his mouth, the finback is sometimes included with the right whale, among a theoretic species denominated whalebone whales, that is, whales with baleen. Of these so-called whalebone whales, there would seem to be several varieties, most of which, however, are little known. Broad-nosed whales and beaked whales and pike-headed whales, bunched whales, underjawed whales, rostrated whales are the fishermen's names for a few sorts. In connection with this appellative of whalebone whales, it is of great importance to mention that however such as nomenclature may be convenient in facilitating allusions to some kinds of whales, yet it is in vain to attempt a clear classification of the Leviathan founded upon either his baleen or hump or fin or teeth, notwithstanding that those marked parts or features very obviously seem better adapted to afford the basis for a regular system of cetology than of any other detached bodily distinctions which the whale in this kind presents. How then? The baleen, hump, back fin, and teeth, these are things whose peculiarities are indiscriminately dispersed among all sorts of whales, without any regard to what may be the nature of their structure in other and more essential particulars. Thus, the sperm whale and the humpback whale each has a hump, but there the similitude ceases. Then, the same humpback whale and the Greenland whale, each of these has baleen, but there again the similitude ceases. And is it just the same with the other parts above mentioned? In various sorts of whales, they form such irregular combinations, or in the case any one of them detached, such an irregular isolation as to defy all general methodization formed upon such a basis. On this rock, every one of the whale naturalists has split. But it may be conceived that in the internal parts of the whale, in his anatomy, there at least we shall be able to hit the right classification. Nay, what thing, for example, is there in the Greenland whale's anatomy more striking than his baleen? Yet we have seen that by his baleen, it is impossible to correctly to classify the Greenland whale. And if you descend into the bowels of the various leviathans, Why there you will not find distinctions a 50th part as available to the systematizer as the external ones already enumerated. What then remains? Nothing but to take hold of the whale's body in their entire liberal volume and boldly sort them that way. And this is the bibliographical system that I have adopted, and it is the only one that can possibly succeed, for it alone is practicable to proceed. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 4, Humpback. This whale is often seen on the northern American coast. He has been frequently captured there and towed into harbor. He has a great pack on him like a peddler, and you might call him the elephant and castle whale. At any rate, the popular name for him does not sufficiently distinguish him, since the sperm whale also has a hump, though a smaller one. His oil is not very valuable. He has baleen. He has the most gamesome and light-hearted of all the whales, making more gay foam and white water, generally, than any other of them. Book 1, Folio. Book 5, Chapter 5, Razorback. Of this whale little is known but his name. I have seen him at a distance off Cape Horn. Of a retiring nature, he eludes both hunters and philosophers. Though no coward, he has never yet shown any part of him but his back, which rises in a long, sharp ridge. Let him go. I know a little more of him, nor does anybody else. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 6, Sulphur Bottom. Another retiring gentleman with a brimstone belly, doubtless got by scraping along the Tartarian tiles in some of his profounder divings. He is seldom seen, at least I've never seen him, except in, remoter southern seas, and then always at too great a distance to study his countenance. He is never chased. He would run away with rope walks of line. Prodigies are told of him. Adieu, Sulphur Bottom. I can say nothing more that is true of ye, nor can the oldest Nantucketer. Thus ends Book 1, Folio. And now begins Book 2, Octavo. All right, well, this is your reader, Joe Hills. We're going to take a break before beginning Book 2, Octavo, because we just got a tip rolling in. Our first tip of the whole stream from Derek Moulton. Thank you, Derek Moulton, for tipping 10, who writes 5 for the move, 5 for the educating the masses. I appreciate you, Joe. Well, thank you so much, Derek, for supporting the arts and my work in particular. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. This is not an audiobook, Ember Bugs. I'm literally reading this live while I play Minecraft. Ken Dreadful says, hold on, was this entire book just for Herman Melville to try and convince everyone to use his whale taxonomical system? Here's the thing, too, though, is this almost feels like a parody? Or, like, as I'm reading this with actual, like, inflection, and like, the first time I read this, I was just like, I don't know what this is. But, like, now that I'm actually trying to read it with inflection, it's, like, really obvious that this is like a moody forum post. This is... I've mentioned that I felt like sometimes this is not science fiction, but it feels like Herman Melville invented Wikipedia or understood Wikipedia rabbit holes before anybody else did. And, like, I'm reading this, and this is like somebody's system for ranking Buffy episodes. Right? Like, I feel like this is... Like, if you were writing this today, this would be my whale tier list. Right? Like, Ken Dreadful says, yeah, like, he's making a joke about how terrible taxonomy is in general. I can get behind that. Yeah, like, maybe he's just like, look, I'm just as bad as these. Like, I don't think... Like, the first time I read this, I thought he was seriously proposing this system. But now that I'm older, I think he's trying to show what an idiot Ishmael is. Like, more so than already. Like this is kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, if you haven't realized you're not supposed to be taking this guy seriously yet, stop taking this guy seriously. Look, he's an idiot. You know? Like in Breaking Bad, how they kept being like, no, he's the bad guy. That's what the show's about. It's about him becoming the bad guy. You know, like no, you're not supposed to like the main character. like this feels like Melville is like really trying to hammer home like no, this guy is nuts. This guy is a raving madman. Okay, so we can't get up there to get those, but whatever. Mindstream says, I note the names of the books Folio, Octavo, and Duodecimo. Each one is a size of book based on the size of paper making it. They're descending in size in the order of the list that he lists them, but he's listing the whales in descending size too. I'm not sure. Ken Dreadful says, I would say this chapter is actually really quite good. This is a challenging chapter. This is I think, like I said, this is a chapter that a lot of people get to it and then they just go, their eyes glaze over. And then they either put the book away or, like I said, I did not understand this chapter the first time I read it. But like, it's kind of one of those things, like the first time I read the Iliad, and he gets to the part where he's like listing all the ships. Hold on. This is public domain night. I don't. The Trial of the Army and the Catalog of Forces. Is this where he lists all the ships? But, okay, so basically in the Iliad, there's a huge, huge list of, like, all of the different places that sent ships to Troy. You know, like, it's supposed to be Helen of Troy is the face that launched 1,000 ships. And, the catalog of ships. Yeah. I can't find it fast enough to beat. But basically, I was, like, reading it, and I was like, what is the point of this? But, like, what you got to keep in mind is if you're doing this out loud, right? Like, he is performing this at parties where, like, he's basically like, hey, and we got 15 ships from Illinois. Anybody here from Chicago? And the people at the Chicago table are like, yeah, go Cubs. And then, and we got 25 ships from Boston. Yeah, Celtics. Yankees suck. And we got, 45 ships from New York City. And then everybody's like, go Mets, Yankees suck. That sort of thing. Like it's a part of an act that doesn't carry over well to just reading it as a novel, which in the case of the Iliad is a lot more excusable because it's not presented in the form of a novel, whereas this is just like, this is presented in the form of a novel, and you're just supposed to figure out that this is an angry internet screed about how to classify whales. This is a forum post, So anyway, yeah. Real quick though, thank you very much to Miss Gold Fox for our second tip of the stream. Tip in 50 who says, thanks for the great stream. Love the Wikipedia and other comparisons. So true. Oh, I'm so glad. That gets us 3 face gamer expansions because we were 10 toward the first one. So here we go. Please direct your attention down here to slot 9 so I can say, howdy y'all, Grow Hills here, expanding as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. D-da-dee-da-dee, D-da-dee-da-dee, D-dee. And then also, numero dos, even larger Joe. Da 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 da. There's still that cardboard box up there. Why is the Joe opacity messed up? Sorry, we got some... working out some problems with the new studio, apparently. And then numero tres, even larger face. La da da da. So thank you very much, Miss Gold Fox, for that. Okay. But yeah. Oh, boy. Let me see if I can fix my hat real quick. It does not... It looks like my hair is coming through, like, the front of the hat weird, which it's not supposed to do. It's like, behave, hair. Behave. But yeah. So thank you very much again to Miss Gold Fox and Derek, our first two tippers of the stream. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. But yeah, I'm trying my best to read this with what I think is, like, the intent of Melville. I am not trying to, like... make fun of this by putting more into it than is there. I'm trying to show what's there, and like the way that he's just like, there's attitude in these words. This is not just like him being like, and here's some data I collected just for reference. It's like, here are my deeply formed, my strongly held opinions, and you're wrong if you disagree with me and you suck. He's like really aggressive with this. Okay. So we just finished book 1 folio. And now begins book 2, Octavo. Octavos. Why this book of whales is not denominated the quarto is very plain, because while the whales of this order, though smaller than those of the former order, nevertheless retain a proportionate likeness to them in figure, yet the bookbinder's quarto volume in its dimension form does not preserve the shape of the folio volume, but the octavo volume does. Anyway, octavos. These embrace the whales of middling magnitude, among which present may be numbered 1. The Grampus, 2. The Blackfish, 3. The Narwhal, 4. The Thrasher, 5. The Killer. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 1, Grampus. Though this fish, whose loud sonorous breathing, or rather blowing, has furnished a proverb to landsmen, is so well known a denizen of the deep, yet he is not popularly classified among whales, but possessing all the grand distinctive features of the Leviathan. Most naturalists have recognized him for one. He is of moderate octavo size, varying from 15 to 25 feet in length, and of corresponding dimensions around the waist. He swims in herds. He is never regularly hunted, though his oil is considerable in quantity, and pretty good for light. By some fishermen, his approach is regarded as premonitory of the advance of the great sperm whale. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 2, Blackfish. I give the popular fisherman's name for all these fish, for generally they're the best. Where any name happens to be vague or inexpressive, I say so, and I suggest another. I do so now, touching the blackfish, so called because blackness is the rule among almost all whales. So call him the hyena whale, if you please. His voracity is well known, and from the circumstance that the inner angles of his lips are curved upwards, he carries an everlasting Mephistophelian grin on his face. This whale averages some 16 or 18 feet in length. He is found in almost all latitudes. He has a peculiar way of showing his dorsal hooked fin in swimming, which looks something like a Roman nose. When not more profitably employed, the sperm whale hunters sometimes capture the hyena whale, to keep up the supply of cheap oil for domestic employment, as some frugal housekeepers, in the absence of company, and quite alone by themselves, burn unsavory tallow instead of odorous wax. Though their blubber is very thin, some of these whales will yield you upwards of 30 gallons of oil. Book 2, Octavo. Chapter 3, Narwhal. That is, nostril whale. Another instance of a curiously named whale. So named, I suppose, for his peculiar horn being originally mistaken for a peaked nose. This creature is some 16 feet in length, while its horn averages 5 feet, though some exceed 10 and even attain to 15 feet. Strictly speaking, this horn is but a lengthened tusk, growing out from the jaw in a line depressed from the horizontal, but it is only found on the sinister side, which has an ill effect, giving its owner something analogous to the aspect of a clumsy left-handed man. What precise purpose this ivory horn or lance answers, it would be hard to say. It does not seem to be used like the blade of the swordfish and the billfish, though some sailors tell me that the narwhal employs it for a rake, turning over the bottom of the sea for food. Charlie Coffin said it was used for an ice piercer, for the narwhal, rising to the surface of the polar sea and finding it sheeted with ice, thrusts his horn up and so breaks through. But you can't prove either of these surmises to be correct. My own opinion is that however this one-sided horn may really be used by the narwhal, however that may be, it would certainly be convenient to him for a folder in reading pamphlets. The narwhal I have heard called the tusked whale. The horned whale, and the unicorn whale. He is certainly a curious example of unicornism to be found in any kingdom of animated nature. From certain cloistered old authors, I have gathered that this same sea unicorn's horn was in ancient days regarded as the great antidote against poison. And, as such, preparations of it brought immense prices. It was also distilled to volatile salts for fainting ladies, the same way that the horns of the male deer are manufactured into hartshorn. Originally, it was in itself accounted an object of great curiosity. Black letter tells me that Sir Martin Frobisher, on his return from that voyage, when Queen Bess did gallantly wave her jewelled hand to him from a window of Greenwich Palace, as his bold ship sailed down the Thames. When Sir Martin returned from that voyage, saith Black letter, on bended knee he presented Her Highness with a prodigious long horn of the narwhal, which for a long period after hung in the castle at Windsor. An Irish author avers that the Earl of Leicester, on bended knee, did likewise present to Her Highness another horn, pertaining to a land beast of the unicorn nature. The narwhal has a very picturesque leopard-like look, being of milk-white ground color, dotted with round and oblong spots of black. His oil is very superior, clear and fine, but there is little of it. He is seldom hunted. He is mostly found in circumpolar areas. Book 2, Octavo. Chapter 4, Killer. Of this whale, little is precisely known to the Nantucketeer, and nothing at all to the professed naturalist. From what I have seen of him at a distance, I'd say he is about the bigness of a grampus. He is very savage, a sort of Fiji fish. He sometimes takes the great folio whales by the lip and hangs there like a leech, till the mighty brute is worried to death. The killer is never hunted. I have never heard what sort of oil he has. Exception might be taken to the name bestowed upon this whale, on the grounds of its indistinctness, for we are all killers, on land and sea, Bonapartes and sharks included. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 5, Thrasher. This gentleman is famous for his tail, which he uses for a ferule in thrashing his foes. He mounts the folio whale's back, and as he swims, he works his passage by flogging him, as some schoolmasters get along in the world by a similar process. Still less is known of the thrasher than of the killer. Both are outlaws, even in the lawless seas. Thus ends Book 2, Octavo, and begins Book 3, Duodecimo. We're going to take a break before we read Book 3. This is your reader, Joe Hills. I'm here playing on Minecraft while I read aloud Moby Dick. Neon Wyvern says, I know we talked about this being facetious, but as a biologist, if this was about insects or bacteria instead of whales, I'd probably read a whole book about this. Okay, there's a whole thing. You could do a whole thing where you're just like, I'm going to classify all the viruses. But we're going to start off by reminding everybody that viruses are germs. It's not just for bacteria. We can call viruses germs too. We're gonna classify all germs, and we're gonna, like, I just get really in the weeds about like all these different things. It's like, yeah, this is such a weird book. I'm glad y'all are enjoying it with me. If you are enjoying the show, just as a reminder, this is a viewer-supported stream, and tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. We are 20 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Neon Wyvern, thank you for the link there. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, the catalog of ships. First, the Boeotians, led by Penelos, Letos, and there's all this. Yeah. Like this whole thing. It's just him listing places and all that. Yeah, it's for the crowd to cheer. Are you not entertained? Sorry about all the nose blowing, but we are kicking up a lot of dust, getting boxes open and stuff organized. We're making progress, but oof, not great for my allergies. Nope Queen says, it's interesting Scar seems to have been demoted from judge since Season 4. Season 4 was a long time ago. Scar was a wee babby. People don't always remember stuff from when they were wee babbies. Dun 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 dun. I just came up with a really bad analogy. I gotta save for later. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to use. I came up with a perfect analogy for defending Doc in court. Okay. I'm reading Moby Dick. This is gonna be a weird. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm going to explain that Doc learns things through experience. And he was trying to share experience with Cleo in order to teach her. It's like a baby who learns by putting toys in their mouth, trying to shove a toy into their parent's mouth. I think this is a great argument because it's both upsetting to Doc and Cleo. Welcome, IGEVN Raiders. My name is Joe Hills. I'm broadcasting live from Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, Jevin Raiders. I am very excited to see y'all tonight. This, if you can't tell by the title of the stream, we are reading Chapter 32 of Moby Dick while we do grindy work on my build once a week. Last season, we started this tradition of me doing super grindy stuff while reading Dracula out loud. And I was like, boy, it's going to be hard to beat Dracula now that we finished that. What's next? And I realized, I was looking at all these different science fiction books, like Around the World in 80 Days or The Time Machine. I guess maybe Around the World in 80 Days isn't science fiction, but Time Machine, Jules Verne stuff, H.G. Wells stuff. But anyway, this is the project we're working on. It takes a while to dig all this out and lay all this out. So, yeah. Look, we've been cutting through this mountain. And it might be like, wow, Joe, you haven't made a lot of progress on that mountain. This was all a mountain range. I've made a lot of progress. This is what's left. But yeah, so we are building a 1-to-1 scale model of the Bell Laboratories Research and Development Campus from Homedale, New Jersey. I'm calling this Hermit Homedale. I'm going to post a link to what we're building so you can see the map I'm working from. This was a U.S. federal government-funded survey map that's now hosted by the Library of Congress. And so, yeah, we have made some good progress. The oval on this map is 900 blocks wide on the long or major diameter and 600 blocks on the minor diameter. We basically have the edges of the major diameter in at this point. The minor diameter, the back edge will be back there. You can't really see it. It'll be in the trees. But yeah, lots of work done. So basically what we're doing is I am practicing reading out loud while I mine out this mountain. Now, once again, I was saying after doing Dracula last season, which was a lot of fun, it's like the classic horror story. People were like, you should do another horror story. And I was like, well, no, I don't want to just only do horror. I want to do a lot of different stuff. So I started looking at science fiction, and I was like, well, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. But nothing really caught my eye from early science fiction. And somebody asked me about Moby Dick, and I was like, oh yeah, Moby Dick is really interesting because it's not technically science fiction, but it anticipates the existence of Wikipedia better than any science fiction author ever did. The premise of Moby Dick is that this guy walks up to you and introduces himself and just starts talking about this time that everybody sucked, so he decided to go on a whale ship. It's like Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye 100 years earlier. And basically he's like, everybody on land is a bunch of phonies, so I'm going to go hang out with the real people on whale ships. And so it's this guy telling you this story about this time he went on a whale ship, but he's like constantly like going down this Wikipedia rabbit hole. Like he'll be like, anyway, so the guy on the top of the mast pointed at the horizon, and you might be imagining he was on a crow's nest, but a crow's nest is actually a very particular thing. It's a patent by, John Crow from this part of England, where they have a lot of problems with these types of navigation things. So he was trying to find a better way to solve these navigation problems, and blah, 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 blah. And he'll go on and on about, like, what makes a proper crow's nest. And then, like, the last 3 words of the chapter will be like, but anyway, you don't have that on a whale ship. It's just a board nailed to the mast. And the sailor standing on the board nailed to the mast yelled, "Well!" And it's just like, what? How is this a book? And so it's a weird weird book with wild pacing. And it's funnier than people realize, because if you try to read it normally, like a normal novel, you don't. It's supposed to be about this guy who won't shut up about his adventure, like being way too excited about. Like, the whole tone of the book is intrinsically kind of comedic and funny. And so we're on chapter 32 of Moby Dick. And this is the chapter where most people... Welcome, that's Baron Raiders. I was explaining that we are just about to continue reading chapter 32 of Moby Dick. This is the chapter that most people who made it this far in the book would be like, wow, it took them forever to actually get on the whale ship and leave the port. And so you get to chapter 32, and the Ishmael, the speaker, is just like, okay, so now that we're away from port, let me explain my system for classifying whales, because everybody else sucks at classifying whales. And it's written, once again, Melville, not traditionally considered a science fiction author, it's written like he knew what a forum post was. This is like somebody's they hit the word limit multiple times, so it's like 3 posts in a row on this topic, and it's just like, it's like somebody trying to explain why their system for ranking Buffy episodes is better than everyone else's. And it's not written like, oh, this is a serious scientific exploration of this that Melville's trying to advance. It's written like, this is how bonkers the speaker Ishmael is. So y'all are coming in. Yeah, secret time traveler Melville, says Nope Queen. I'm starting to wonder. I am actually starting to wonder. I think you could make a strong case. You could make a strong case for secret time traveler Melville. That might be a fun premise for a science fiction story. About like how one time Melville ended up in like Philadelphia in the modern era, and like just spend a bunch of time screwing around. And you could tell it exactly like this. So Star Wars Guy says, it's such an amazing analysis of Moby Dick, and I love it. Well, awesome. We read it every week. I've got a playlist of the Saturday night readings. We did a Dracula playlist, and so now we got a Moby Dick playlist. This is not like technically an audio book, because I'm not reading it straight through. I'm like reading it, talking about it with the chat, reading it some more, that sort of thing. Somebody says this could be a Doctor Who episode. That Doctor Who would be perfect for this. Herman Melville accidentally ends up on the TARDIS somehow. Like, they go on an adventure with Herman Melville, and then the next episode is them like back in the modern day, and Herman Melville's still there, and they're like, "Wait, I thought you were gonna drop Melville off. I thought you were gonna drop Melville off. You're the one with you're the one who knows how to steer the thing. Well, but I was busy with the Cybermen. It's like, you take some responsibility for a change. Go drop Melville off. No, I'm like tired. Yeah. And so Melville's just. You could do a whole thing like how Napoleon got lost in San Dimas. You lost Herman Melville in San Dimas? He goes to the water park. Anyway. Deacon, you lost Napoleon? Okay. So, anyway, we were about to read in chapter 32. We're on his duodecimo bit here, where he's going to talk about the smaller whales. So, duodecimos. These include the smaller whales. 1. The huzzah porpoise. 2. The algerazine porpoise. 3.
The mealy-mouthed porpoise.
To those who have not chanced specially to study the subject, it may possibly seem strange that fishes not commonly exceeding 4 or 5 feet should be marshaled among whales, a word which, in the popular sense, always conveys an idea of hugeness. But the creatures set down above as duodecimos are infallibly whales by the terms of my definition of what a whale is, i.e., a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. Book 3, Chapter 1, Huzzah Porpoise. This is the common porpoise found almost all over the globe. The name is of my own bestowal, for there are more than one set of porpoises, and something must be done to distinguish them. I call him thus because he always swims in hilarious shoals, which upon the broad sea keep tossing themselves to heaven like caps in a 4th of July crowd. Their appearance is generally hailed with delight by the mariner. Full of fine spirits, they invariably come from the breezy billows to windward. These are the lads that always live before the wind. They are accounted a lucky omen. If you yourself can withstand 3 cheers at beholding these vivacious fish, then heaven help ye, the spirit of godly gamesomeness is not in ye. A well-fed, plump, huzzah porpoise will yield you 1 good gallon of good oil, but the fine and delicate fluid extracted from his jaws is exceedingly valuable. It is in request among jewelers and watchmakers. Sailors put it on their hones. Porpoise meat is good eating, you know. It may never occurred to you that a porpoise spouts. Indeed, his spout is so small that it is not readily discernible. But the next time you have a chance, watch him, and you will see the great sperm whale himself in miniature. Book 3, Duodecimo. Chapter 2, Algerine Porpoise. A pirate. Very savage. He is only found, I think, in the Pacific. He is somewhat larger than the huzzah porpoise, but much of the same general make. Provoke him, and he will buckle to a shark. I have lowered for him many times, but never yet saw him captured. Book 3, Duodecimo. Chapter 3,
Mealy-mouthed porpoise.
the largest kind of porpoise, and the only found in the Pacific so far as it is known. The only English name by which he has been hitherto been designated is that of the Fisher's right whale porpoise, from the circumstance that he is chiefly found in the vicinity of that folio. In shape, he differs in some degree from the huzzah porpoise, being of a less rotund and jolly girth. Indeed, he is of quite a neat and gentlemanlike figure. He has no fins on his back. Most other porpoises have. Yet he has a lovely tail, and a sentimental Indian eyes of a hazel hue. But his mealy mouth spoils all. Though his entire back, down to his side fins, is of a deep sable, yet a boundary line, distinct as the mark in a ship's hull, called the bright waist. That line streaks him from stem to stern, with 2 separate colors, black above and white below. The white comprises part of his head and the whole of his mouth, which makes him look as if he had just escaped from a felonious visit to a meal bag. A most mean and mealy aspect. His oil is much like that of the common porpoise. Beyond the duodecimo, this system does not proceed, insomuch as the porpoise is the smallest of the whales. Above, you have all the leviathans of note. But there are a rabble of uncertain, fugitive, half-fabulous whales, which, as an American whaleman, I know by reputation, but not personally. I shall enumerate them by their forecastle appellations, for possibly such a list may be valuable to future investigators, who may complete what I have but here begun. If any of the following whales shall hereafter be caught and marked, then he can be readily incorporated into the system, according to his folio, octavo, or duodecimo magnitude. The bottlenose whale, the junk whale, the puddin-headed whale, the cape whale, the leading whale, the cannon whale, the scrag whale, the coppered whale, the elephant whale, the iceberg whale, the quag whale, the blue whale, From Icelandic, Dutch, and Old English authorities, there might be quoted other lists of uncertain whales, blessed with all manner of uncouth names, but I omit these as altogether obsolete, and can hardly help suspecting them for more sounds, full of leviathanism, but signifying nothing. Finally, it was stated at the outset that this system would not be here, and at once perfected. You cannot but plainly see that I have kept my word. But I now leave my cetological system standing thus unfinished, even as the great cathedral of Cologne was left, with the crane still standing on the top of the uncompleted tower. For small erections may be finished by their first architects. Grand ones, true ones, ever leave the copestone to posterity. God keep me from ever completing anything. This book is but a draft, nay, but the draft of a draft. Ah, time, strength, cash, and patience. And that concludes chapter 32 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, Cetology, by Herman Melville. Hey, welcome, Wafzilla. Glad you could join us. Yep, I am indeed reading Moby Dick tonight. Hope that you Jevon Raiders who stuck around. What do you think? Did I represent this accurately? Did I misrepresent this? Is this just some guy going off about whales? Dun 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 dun. What am I mining for? Frog lights. Every shulker of basically every 3 shulkers of stone that I give Etho gives me 2 stacks of frog lights, and we need the frog lights to finish our roads. We got a lot of roads here. Let me go up high. Yeah. So as you can see, a lot of roads. We're using gravel for the roads themselves, but we're lining them with frog lights. Verin Visa says, I love the acceleration of tone when you started reading about my definition of whales. Yeah, I found, as I started reading this chapter, anytime he starts, like, parenthetically being like, but I'm smarter than you, I'm like, I really need to go hardcore nerd for that. Phoenix Fire says, for the comparison to tier list was spot on. I know, right? Like, if you've ever, like, read a D&D, like, a D&D character creation tier list where they're like, this spell is trash, or if you're gonna play as a rogue, then don't play as this species because you know the benefits are terrible and the cons are notable. Like it's just like, yeah. If you're gonna take a spell that does fire damage, take Fireball. Don't take the like nonsense like that. Grumpy Bunny says your cadence was perfect. Thank you. Raystar says awesome job on the chapter in the YouTube chat. Thank you. If any of y'all enjoyed my reading, just as a reminder, this is a viewer-supported stream, and tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Oh wow, I actually landed that pretty well for being alt-tabbed out. According to my abacus here, we are $20 away from our next face camera expansion milestone. Okay. So, we are 90 minutes in. That was one of the longest chapters in the whole book. So, what I want to do... So, sometimes what I try and do is I skim ahead to the next chapter. I'm not, like, reading these ahead and practicing them. I do skim a little bit just to see, like, hey, is the next chapter something thematically linked to the current chapter? Like, should I try and fit one more chapter in tonight? Because, like, this chapter doesn't make any sense unless you read the last chapter immediately before it. But, the next chapter is about the roles on the ship. And then the chapter after that is about the captain's table for dinner. So I think that those are going to fit. Chapter 33 and 34 are going to be a good pair of chapters to read next week based on their length and the fact that they seem thematically linked. Ver Envious says, I ran the D&D club at Ole Miss, and we had to stop people from being mean, like, you can't be an elf fighter, it's not good for your stats. Yeah. I don't make characters that are optimal. Oh, yeah, one thing my Dungeon Master, has gotten, I'm not going to say frustrated by, but he's, like, noticed a pattern enough to comment on it. Where it's like, Joe, you know, it seems like you don't prepare spells for combat very frequently. And I'm like, I do every time we go somewhere dangerous. And he's like, well, I would say every other fight you guys get into, you don't have any combat spells prepared, you know? And I'm like, well, but like those times we weren't going into combat, we were like going to a play or a dinner, or so I had all, you know, like I had all these, you know, utility and social spells ready, but I didn't know that there was going to be a fight. And he's just like, well, but like, you know, there's like always a fight. Like, and I'm like, on some level, I, as a player, understand that, but like, I don't think my character would believe that or want to live that way. like he's not going to prepare a bunch of, you know, like I have a bunch of high damage, like I think I'm at this point like a level 16 wizard in Pathfinder 2nd edition. And I've got some pretty crazy high damage spells, but like if you know, we get an invite to go to a dinner at like the house of like an NPC we trust that we've known forever, I'm not going to show up and be like, oh man, you won't believe how many phantasmal horrors I can cast. You know, I'll have party tricks and fun stuff. Because I've also got a bunch of spells for fun stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things where like, you know, like every time this happens, I'm like, but here are the spells I did prepare and why they're perfect for what you told us we were going to do. Like, this is what my character believed was going to happen tonight, and his spells were precisely chosen to be a delight and a help in this very specific situation. Like, what are my spells for fun stuff? Well, I'm an illusionist, and so I have a bunch of, like, non-damaging, like, disguise spells and making noise spells and creating cool stuff spells. And, you know, so it's the sort of thing, like, if, like, you know, let's say that one of the guys in the party starts telling a story, I could, like, start creating, like, holograms in the air depicting the stuff and, like, you know, be like his hype man, you know? That sort of thing. But yeah, basically it's just like, wait, so you only prepared non-damaging illusion spells that look awesome. And I'm like, yeah, they look awesome! But yeah, I really don't want to let the rest of the party down. So I have been trying to get better about that by, like, striking a balance. But it seems like a lot of times in these games, it's like, yeah, maybe. Or like, oh, I had this one, or like, there will be problems too where it's like, I don't think about bringing spells that target multiple types of weaknesses. Like, one time we were going to a we were hired by like somebody who was like doing diplomacy with a bunch of vampires. So we were going to a vampire dinner where like all of these like high noble houses of vampire lords would be in attendance, right? To try to help with this diplomatic thing for our ally, right? And so I prepared a whole bunch of spells that would be useful if you had to fight a room full of vampires. Like I had this spell that slams anything that's flying into the ground really hard. And so it's like, okay, all the vampires take to the air, and then I cast that. And then they all like thwomp, like it just basically says anything that's flying just gets smacked into the ground really hard. I forget the name of the spell, but it's like it does a ton of damage and it has a huge area of effect. But I had all these spells for fighting vampires because that's what I thought we were gonna do. But that ended up not. There was a combat element to that fight, but it ended up being some sort of like Lovecraftian unthinking horror, and all of my spells were like just completely unhelpful because it's an unthinking horror. You can't do illusions on it. And most of the stuff I had was to like target very specific vampire things like, oh, did you turn to mist? You're about to have a bad day. And it's like, this thing isn't turning to mist or flying, or it's not doing any of the really specific vampire-y things that I was ready to fight. Like, I might have... I'm playing a preparation-based class, and I've over-prepared. It's fine. I'm having a lot of fun playing this wizard, but I think this might be the last wizard I play for a long time. Did I get that tip on the abacus? I'm sorry, Lost Cult Music. Thank you very much. That gets us 17 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're gonna head to the end real quick and do some stuff. Whew. Fix our tools and whatnot. But yeah, thank you so much, Lost Cult Music. That puts us 17 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Yeah, my next character I want to play is I want to play a cleric who has some sort of cultural reason that he's not allowed to commit violence. And so you might say, well, Joe, you can't just play as a pacifist in a game like Pathfinder or D&D and only heal your allies because your allies are hurting people. And that's just you causing violence with extra steps. So I was like, how would I make a character like this work? And I realized that the answer was that the character should come from a culture where it's like only one member of the tribe or clan or family, like each town or social group has only one person who's allowed to commit violence. Like, and so like the kid's dad is that guy. And his dad called in a favor to send the kid to study violence out among other cultures so that one day when his father passes, he can be the violent guy for his tribe, right? And so I love the idea of like playing a character who has like a very strict code. He cannot commit any violence. He cannot attack anything. But he can heal people. Like the Giver, but with violence. Yeah, kind of. And so the idea of like, if like, oh man, our party's fighter just like completely does like some awesome move or whatever, and then he heals the guy, is like, he heals the victim, is like, oh man, that was awesome. Okay, I just gave him a little bit of health so you can do it again. I really want to study how you did that with the sword. Like, not a pacifist who isn't opposed to violence, but a pacifist who is, like, super hyped, like, it's not my turn yet, but one day it's going to be, and I'm going to be so ready. My dad's going to be so proud of me. I mean, he'll be dead, because I can't do the violence until he's dead, because that's how this culturally works. And yeah, I saw in Pathfinder 2, there's, like, I forget what the name of the species is, but I was trying to think of, like, I was looking for, like, remote cultures and species in the setting, because I was like, well, I don't want to just have the person be an elf or a dwarf, because, like, dwarves and elves culturally obviously do all sorts of harm and stuff. They have to be, like, from some really, like, niche species. And there was this one underwater species, I forget the name of it, but I have it written down in my notes, that I had never heard of, but I was like, ooh, what's this? And then I was like, oh, this is cool, because then if this guy's from, like, some sort of, like, underwater, like, species, then I can also have some sort of, like, exception for fish, where and, like, I was like, oh, his focus could be like a trident, and you know, we could do a whole, like, you know, Son of Atlantis type of thing. Maybe not quite that extreme, but, you know. But yeah. So he'd have, like, a trident, but he's not allowed to stab anybody with it. But he can stab fish. And but yeah, I was thinking, like, you know, and it'd be the sort of thing too, where, like, can that species breathe air? I think so. I have to look at it. But yeah, I was thinking there'd be something funny too to, like, you know, if there was ever, like, a monster fish that attacked the party, my guy could just totally, you know, go whale on him. Haha, whale. And you know, the other party members would be like, wait, how come you can do violence to fish, but not, you know, anything else? And, you know, I was thinking, like, the character would have some sort of thing like, oh, you know, the philosophers of our tribe have a saying for this sort of logical argument. Land people are dumb. Fish is fish. I feel like fish is fish is one of those things too that you could really dramatically scream while flying toward a giant fish with a trident. I could name the fish boy Merman Hellville. Merman Hellville, we brought it back around. Nope, Queen, you win the stream. We have a winner in the YouTube chat. It's Nope Queen. His name is a killing word. I'm dying, Squirtle. Alpacatastic says, fish are food, not friends. Okay. Hey, welcome, NJ Coffee Junkie. I hope you had a good Saturday. We just finished reading chapter 32, Cetology of Moby Dick, or the Whale by Herman Melville. Oh, I didn't actually fix my trident. Is my other stuff fixed? Yeah, it is. I need to name him Merman Hellville. Oh my gosh. I feel like that's kind of... If he is, like, a merman as his species, though, I think I'll have to name him Merman. Like... Oh, wait. I'll put it... Merman. Yeah, so it's... Because, like, that's the difference between naming your dwarf Dwarf and Dwarf. It's not great, but, like, it's something. It's something. Merman could be a title. I used to be a mer boy and I wasn't allowed to travel with outsiders. But yeah, I want him to be like the Jimmy Olsen of the party. Where he's just like he's like constantly in the mix. Because I want him to be like a touch healer, so he's gonna be constantly as close as possible to the action so he can observe the violence. I feel like this is a really strong character concept. Yeah, one day I will be the merman. I like the idea that he's from Hellville. It's just what it's called. Are mer people mythical in that setting? I don't know. I gotta look it up. 1 cent coin says, I was in a 5e campaign with a nature cleric who is a homebrew bearded vulture bird person. His gimmick is eating anything the party kills. I mean, you don't want to waste it. I get it. Oh boy. Got a lot to do today. Yeah, so NJ, we concluded reading chapter 32, Cytology, so now we are just kind of palling around, getting some stuff done. Now that we're not reading, I could probably do something a little bit more mentally challenging than removing this stuff. But apparently it was too mentally challenging, and so I did not do a very good job of doing this without, like, making it super dark over here. So let's maybe actually just finish up a little bit of this, clean up here. Bum, 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 bum. Welcome back, Scar. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Do 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 do. Good times with Scar. La da 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 da. Dee da dee da dee da. Da 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 da. Okay. The bass, the vibe, the mic, the treble. I like my good time Scar just like my metal. NJ says, Goodwill's gonna love us when we're done. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I've got some furniture I was hoping some friends would take. But, well, the reason, like, it's like I don't mind giving things to Goodwill, but I prefer to give it to my friends because my friends will show up here with a truck. Whereas I have to either figure out how to carry furniture several miles, which I can technically do, but I don't want to. Or I have to get somebody else with a truck to come pick it up and help me take it to Goodwill. Queen Lyra says, one of my players is playing a skeleton that harvests the bones of anything the party kills. Zips, I don't use Facebook. Also, I don't want strangers coming to my house or apartment. Does Goodwill do pickups for furniture? Well, that's good to know. Goodwill is a pickup deliver service. Awesome. Well, that's better then. Okay, great. Because, yeah, I've got this small dining table with 4 chairs. And I wasn't sure. I was a little worried that my dining room table from my old apartment, since we just moved into a new, smaller apartment, I was worried our old dining room table wouldn't fit. Our big one. So I was like, well, let's hold on to this small one just in case we need it. But the big one barely fits. You can't really seat all 6 people at it, but you can seat 5 if you squeeze. But I was worried that that big table would end up down here in storage in the garage. But nope, we can finally get rid of the small one. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so we'll want to clean that up eventually, but we can go dump some of this stone in here in the meantime. Ah, there we go. go. Bye-bye, stone. This is not the most optimal way to do any of this. Just as a side note. As I burst explosives on myself. Yeah. It's like, for one thing, I should not have thrown away all of the ender pearls. I should have kept a stack for myself to use right now. T-Lug says, looks like there's a few AMVETs in Nashville. We had luck with them coming to pick up on one for furniture. What's AMVETs? Because NJ says, I have a contractor bag full of hangers that vets are going to take it in the Twitch chat. Is AMVETs some sort of Goodwill-like thing run by veterans or for veterans? This is somehow not on my radar. But then again, I don't do a ton of furniture giving away or getting usually. It's just this move that's kind of pushed this into my queue. Dun, 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 dun. It's a charity for veterans. Okay, that's interesting. I'll look into them. Especially if they have pickup. Got a lot to do. Okay. Okay, so that's going to have that floating island above it over there. So nothing we do on that's really going to completely wipe that out. But we do want to clear this up. Joe at joehills.net, T-Lug. And now we're in a ravine. Okay. Okay, a lot of blocks we aren't picking up at this point. Probably should go drop some of them off. Maybe take a quick nap in a bed. Sleeping through the night. I mean, I can find it, NJ. Thank you, though. Okay. Alrighty. Welcome, Real Fragments. Okay. We have concluded reading Moby Dick for the night. We're just kind of winding down for a few more minutes. Now is probably a good time to mention, we're going to go ahead and do last call for tips. We are $17 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. If you enjoyed this Moby Dick reading, tips are welcome via paypal.me/joehills and YouTube Super Chat. My stream schedule, should you look for it or need it, is at joehills.net/soon. Thursday, we've got a special as many hermits as possible on deck stream during our normal meeting time, where we're going to be touring a bunch of bases. joehills.net/soon is where you can find that schedule. Scar says, just need to get rid of the flowers. How many beacons do I have? Probably at least 2. Maybe 5. Maybe not. Thanks, B-dubs. I appreciate your confidence. Alrighty, Speeder, have a good time at work. Or at least a time. Get through it. Okay, here we go. Placing some more blocks in over here. Whoops, or fallen. Whatever. Why is Cub out here diagnosing people with villainy? I don't know. It's Cub fan. He does what he wants. I'm not the boss of Cub now. I'm not the boss of Cub now. I'm not the boss of Cub now, and I'm not his fan. Just kidding. Cub is great. Yeah, the floating pumpkins mark where the roads need to go. So there was originally a mountain range here. And I was marking where the roads needed to go. So that road is marked by those pumpkins on the original mountain, which has been largely removed. There's a few other similar things, like that was originally at ground level. Yeah, they're road ghosts. Road ghosts. Jobs that matter. Yeah, it kind of puts into perspective how much has been removed. Like, this floating island used to be near the top of this part, but yeah. I've got this whole thing over here. This is way taller than the building that I need to put in here. These are going to have to go. This is all going to have to go, too. It's not a high priority because the building isn't a high priority, but it'll have to go. Okay. Uh-oh, polar bear. Bye, polar bear. But yeah, this range has to go too, because there's a bunch of connector stuff we need to do. Connecting that bit over there around. Hey, kittens. This is where the front parking lot's gonna go. Hey, Cub fan left me some fireworks. I didn't know that. Okay, I'll have to find those on camera, but that's nice. Okay. Yeah, you say you left them by my portal, but I never used this portal really. But yeah, the front parking lot's gonna go over here eventually once I hollow this out too. It's a lot to do. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Do, 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 do. La, da, 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 do, 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 do. But yeah, we'll resume putting in roads and stuff tomorrow night. That's more mathematically and geometrically focused. We're just having a chill wind down now, removing some surplus gravel. Because we're going to need it, folks. We got a lot of gravel to place, too. For all our roads to go. Hi, Chimera Gaming. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to HermitCraft Season 10. We hope you laugh until you cry, and then you sob, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what a train wreck, what a tragedy, what could these guys have possibly been doing? Oh no. Why'd I have to watch HermitCraft? Why'd I have to watch HermitCraft? Oh, it's your birthday. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Feliz cumpleaños a la videojuego Chimera. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Y muchos más. I should probably consolidate down some of the rest of this. We never built a workbench over this one. Shockingly. Oh man, remember that time I had a bunch of coal blocks and then I ran out? What happened to those? It's a mystery to everybody. What happened to those days when I had so many coal blocks? Okay. Okay. Where are you at, Scar? That's my best B-dubs. I think it was actually close. So many blocks. Not really optimizing my inventory management at this point either, but we're kind of just winding down. We already did the last call for tips. I should probably do a hard refresh on the PayPal at some point, just to check on that, but let's wait until night clears. Don't want to get attacked by mobs when I'm checking that. Sleeping through the night, 'cause the B-dubs is uptight. Now he's down, snuggled in a blankie. La da 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 da. Nope. Different Joe Hills. Sorry to disappoint you. That other one's pretty good. Okay. Should probably put more of this in storage. This was in storage. I'm making a note here. Store it better. Da da da. Da 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 da. All these blocks of cobble are despawning right now, so I'll go pick them up. Hurry it well. La da 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 da. Have a good night, Note Queen. We're going to be wrapping up soon here, too. We're just grabbing some materials and cleaning up a little bit on our way out the door. I just like there to be visible progress. You know? Like, I feel like clearing this out on this shelf here is visible or progress, or more visible progress than some of the other stuff we were doing. How do we lose all of our berries? I don't know when that happened, but we are now completely out of berries again. Elijah says, how close is the stream to being set up? Ugh, there's still some issues with the camera I haven't dealt with. I don't think I'm going to get to them tonight. Okay, let's go grab some berries, because apparently we're out. Oops. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So there we go. Full stomach. Oh, we need to greet Tango. Even in Tango. You can tell it's HermitCraft because it's Saturday night and all of us are on the internet. Hey, oh, Tango. Hey, oh, Tango. This isn't a much newer and better berry farm. This is just the same berry farm, but I keep accidentally planting more berries. Okay. I think we're ready to wrap up the stream. Let me see if what is going on here in the broader world. Hey, it looks like Don't Panic Flip is continuing his Florida streaming tour with more of Elton John. Let's make sure that's muted so we don't get immediately copyright struck. So we're going to / raid Don't Panic Flip. Don't Panic Flip is going to be joining me in studio sometime later this month. We're still working out the exact dates, but he's going to be passing through Nashville on his way back from his current stream trip to Florida, where he is currently streaming Elton John Collector's Edition by Jersey Jack. When you get over there, our raid message is, howdy y'all, Joe Hill's raid here. Thanks again to everybody who raided, everybody who tipped, everybody who enjoyed the novel. This has been Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring. I gotta click the thing. I'm so tired. I'm like, how do I